Victor Newman's latest strategy takes a darker turn as Adam reveals troubling information to Chelsea. Victor intends to use Kane's family, Lily, Maddie, and Charlie, as leverage to shut down Kane's takeover attempt. The goal is not subtle pressure, but hitting Kane where it hurts the most. Chelsea is visibly disturbed by the plan and questions whether Victor would go as far as kidnapping. Adam suggests it may not reach that extreme, yet the intent remains clear. Victor is actively searching for a ruthless way to gain the upper hand, raising serious concerns about how far he may be willing to go. Elsewhere, Billy Abbott faces a devastating personal blow. Sally admits she went behind his back and contacted Jill about the Chancellor deal and his possible exit from Abbott Communications. Sally explains that she did not reach Jill directly, but instead spoke with Billy's uncle, Snapper Foster. The conversation delivers shocking news. Jill's health has taken a significant turn for the worse. The update leaves Billy reeling and immediately shifts his priorities away from business and toward family, forcing him to confront a deeply emotional situation. Meanwhile, panic erupts at the Chancellor Mansion when Dominic suddenly goes missing. Abby spirals into fear as the search begins. Devon tries to remain steady, but Abby points out that the grounds have already been searched and everyone questioned with no answers in sight. As darkness falls, the situation grows increasingly desperate. Abby and Devon remain completely unaware that Mariah Copeland is the one who abducted their son, setting the stage for a tense and emotional battle to bring Dominic home. What happens when a missing child, a family health crisis, and Victor Newman's darkest scheme collide in one explosive week? And just how far will Victor go to protect his empire this time? Because spoilers say the week of January 26th through 30th is about to deliver some of the most gut-wrenching drama we've seen in months. And trust me, you're not ready for what's coming. Let's start with something that might seem like typical Newman family business on the surface. You know how Victor operates. You've seen him manipulate, scheme, and destroy anyone who threatens what he's built. But this time he's crossing lines that even Adam Newman finds disturbing. And when Adam Newman thinks you've gone too far, you know we're in dangerous territory. So, here's what's happening. Kane Ashba's been making moves, right? He's attempting a takeover, trying to muscle his way into Newman territory, probably thinking he's smart enough to outmaneuver the great Victor Newman. And look, we've seen people try this before. They always lose. But the way Victor plans to handle Kane this time is different. It's personal. It's vicious. And it involves people who have absolutely nothing to do with this business war. Adam sits down with Chelsea, and you can already tell from his body language that something's eating at him. He's conflicted, which is rare for Adam. He's usually all in on whatever scheme is happening, but not this time. He tells Chelsea about Victor's plan. And here's where things get interesting. Victor isn't going after Kane directly. He's not targeting his business assets or his reputation. No, Victor wants to use Kane's family as leverage. Let that sink in for a second. We're talking about Lily, Maddie, and Charlie. Kane's children, his family, the people he loves most in this world. Victor Newman is planning to weaponize them to make Kane back down from this takeover attempt. And Chelsea's reaction is exactly what you'd expect from someone who's actually got a conscience. She's horrified. She asks the question we're all thinking. Is Victor actually planning to kidnap them? Now, Adam tries to downplay it. He suggests it won't go that far. That Victor just wants to find a pressure point, a way to hit Kane where it hurts without actually crossing into criminal territory. But here's the thing. When has Victor Newman ever shown restraint once he's decided someone needs to be destroyed? When has he ever pulled back from the edge when his empire is at stake? The answer is never. So Adam can say it won't be that extreme all he wants. But we know Victor. We've watched this man tear families apart for decades. We've seen him turn children against parents, siblings against each other, spouses into enemies. And now he's targeting innocent people. People who aren't even involved in this business dispute just to prove a point, just to show Kane Ashb that you don't come for Victor Newman without paying a price. And this is where everything changes for Adam. You can see it in his conversation with Chelsea. He's starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, his father has finally gone too far. Chelsea is looking at him with this mixture of disbelief and disgust. And Adam knows that if he goes along with his plan, if he helps Victor threaten Lily and those kids, there's no coming back from that. Not with Chelsea. Not with anyone who has any shred of decency left. But that's not even the worst part. Because while Victor is plotting to use children as pawns in his corporate chess game, there's another family crisis brewing that's about to shift everything. And this one involves someone who's been a cornerstone of Genoa City for years. Someone whose health and well-being affects more people than you might realize. Sally Sinclair has been carrying a secret, and it's been eating her alive. She went behind Billy Abbott's back. She contacted Jill about the Chancellor deal and Billy's potential departure from Abbott Communications. Now, you might think this is just typical workplace drama, right? Someone going over their boss's head trying to manipulate a situation. But Sally didn't do this out of malice. She did it because she cares about Billy. Because she saw him spiraling, making decisions that could destroy everything he's worked for. Still, going behind someone's back is going behind their back, no matter how good your intentions are. And Sally knows this. She knows she crossed a line. So, she sits Billy down and confesses everything. She tells him she tried to reach Jill, try to get her to intervene, to maybe talk some sense into Billy before he made a decision he couldn't take back. But here's where the story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. Sally didn't actually speak to Jill. She couldn't reach her. Instead, she ended up talking to Billy's uncle, Snapper Foster. And Snapper told her something that changes. Absolutely everything. Something that makes all this business drama, all these corporate power plays, seem completely insignificant in comparison. Jill's health has taken a turn for the worse. Billy's face when he hears this. When Sally delivers this news, it's like watching someone's entire world shift beneath their feet. Because Billy has been so consumed with work, with his battles at Abbott Communications, with his pride and his ambition, that he hasn't been paying attention to what really matters. His mother has been struggling, her health declining, and he's been too wrapped up in his own drama to notice. That's when it gets personal. All of Billy's priorities, everything he thought was so important just moments ago, it all becomes background noise. The Chancellor deal doesn't matter anymore. His potential departure from Abbott Communications doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is Jill, and the terrifying realization that he might be running out of time with her. Sally watches him process this information, and you can see the guilt in her eyes. She didn't want to deliver this news. She didn't want to be the one to tell Billy that his mother's health is failing. But someone had to. And now Billy has to face the reality that while he's been fighting corporate battles and nursing his wounded pride, his mother has been fighting a battle of her own. A battle she might be losing. And this is where everything changes for Billy. All those plans, all those schemes, all that ambition, it evaporates in an instant. Because what's the point of building an empire if you lose the people you love while you're doing it? What's the point of winning business wars if you're not there for your family when they need you most? Now here's where things get interesting. Because while Victor is threatening families and Billy is dealing with his mother's health crisis, there's a third story line unfolding that's about to send shockwaves through Genoa City. And this one involves every parent's worst nightmare. Dominic goes missing. Just let those words sit with you for a moment. A child, a little boy vanishes from the Chancellor mansion. And we're not talking about a kid who wandered off to play hide and seek. We're talking about a full-scale disappearance that sends Abby Newman into absolute panic mode. You might think, okay, maybe he's just somewhere on the property. Maybe he's in a closet or a spare room and everyone's overreacting. Kids hide sometimes. Kids wander off. This is probably just a scare that'll be resolved in an hour or two, right? But that's not the case. Devin tries to stay calm. He's the voice of reason, trying to keep Abby from spiraling completely out of control. But even Devin can't deny the facts. They've searched the entire mansion. They've combed through every room, every closet, every possible hiding spot. They've questioned everyone who was in the house, everyone who might have seen something. And they've come up empty, completely empty. Abby points this out to Devin, and you can hear the desperation in her voice. This isn't just a worried mother overreacting. This is a woman who knows deep in her gut that something is terribly wrong. Her son is gone. Not hiding, not playing, gone. And here's the thing that makes this situation even more terrifying. As the hours pass, as day turns to evening and evening turns to night, the reality of what's happening becomes impossible to ignore. Dominic isn't coming back on his own. Someone took him. Someone walked into that mansion and abducted a child, and they did it without anyone noticing until it was too late. Darkness falls over Genoa City, and Abby and Devin are living every parent's worst nightmare. Their son is out there somewhere, possibly scared, possibly in danger, and they have no idea where to even begin looking. No clues, no witnesses, no leads whatsoever. But that's not even the worst part of the story. Because while Abby and Devin are frantically searching, while they're calling in every favor and demanding answers from anyone who might know something, there's one crucial piece of information they don't have. One fact that would change everything if they knew it. They have no idea that Mariah Copeland is the one who took their son. Think about that for a second. Mariah, someone they know, someone they trust, someone who's been part of their lives, part of their extended family. Mariah is the one who walked into that mansion and took Dominic. And Abby and Devin are completely in the dark about this. Now, you might be wondering, why would Mariah do this? What could possibly motivate her to abduct a child? And that's the question that's going to drive the storyline forward, because Mariah's motivations, whatever they are going to be complex. This isn't going to be a simple case of a deranged kidnapper snatching a child for ransom or revenge. This is going to be deeply personal, deeply emotional, and probably deeply connected to Mariah's own history and trauma. Remember, Mariah was Dominic's surrogate. She carried that baby. She formed a bond with him before he was even born. And we've seen how complicated surrogacy situations can become on this show. The emotional attachment, the sense of loss when the baby is handed over to the biological parents, the feeling of being just a vessel rather than a mother. All of that has been simmering beneath the surface with Mariah for months now. But whatever. Mariah's reasons are, whatever justified her actions in her own mind, the reality is that she's committed a crime. She's taken a child from his parents. She's caused unimaginable pain and fear. And when the truth comes out, when Abby and Devin discover that someone they trusted, someone they welcomed into their lives, is the one responsible for this nightmare, the fallout is going to be catastrophic. Let's think about the emotional impact here for a moment. Abby is Victor Newman's daughter. She's got resources, connections, and a father who will absolutely burn Genoa City to the ground if someone has hurt his grandchild. When Abby finds out that Mariah is behind this, there's no forgiveness coming. There's no understanding or sympathy. There's only rage and a demand for justice. And Devin, who's usually the calm one, the reasonable one, he's going to be just as furious. Because this isn't just about someone taking their child. This is about someone they trusted betraying them in the most profound way possible. This is about someone exploiting their connection, their kindness, their willingness to include Mariah in Dominic's life, and using all of that to hurt them. The consequences of Mariah's actions are going to ripple through Genoa City for months. Friendships will be destroyed, trust will be shattered, and Mariah herself is going to face legal consequences that could change her life forever, because you can't just take someone's child and expect to walk away from that. Now, here's where it gets personal in a different way. While this drama is unfolding, while Dominic is missing and Abby and Devin are losing their minds with worry, the rest of Genoa City has no idea what's happening. Victor is still plotting against Kane's family. Billy is still reeling from the news about Jill's health. Life is continuing for everyone else, completely oblivious to the fact that a child has been abducted. And this is one of those moments where you realize how fragile everything is. How quickly a normal day can turn into the worst day of your life. How the crises we think are so important, the business deals and power plays and corporate maneuvering. How all of that becomes meaningless in an instant when real tragedy strikes. Think about Victor's plan to threaten Kane's children. He's willing to use kids as leverage in a business dispute. But what if Maddie or Charlie actually went missing? What if Victor's threats turned into reality and Kane was facing what Abby and Devin are facing right now? Would Victor see the cruelty of what he was planning? Would it give him pause? Or would he rationalize it as necessary, as just business, as the price of protecting what's his Billy consumed with work and ambition, neglecting his mother's health until it's almost too late? What if something happens to Jill before he has a chance to make things right? What if he's so focused on corporate battles that he misses his chance to be there for her when she needs him most? The regret, the guilt, the knowledge that you can't get that time back. It would destroy him. That's when it gets personal for everyone involved in these storylines. Because consequences aren't just about what happens to you. They're about what happens to the people you love, the people you're supposed to protect, the people who trust you to do the right thing. Spoilers say that this week is going to force every single one of these characters to confront what really matters. Victor is going to have to decide if winning is worth destroying innocent lives. Billy is going to have to choose between his pride and his family. And Mariah is going to have to face the reality of what she's done and whether there's any way back from this. But let's dig deeper into Victor's situation because this is classic Victor Newman behavior taken to an extreme we haven't seen in a while. He's built an empire over decades, and he's defended it ruthlessly against anyone who dared to challenge him. But using children as leverage, threatening Lily and Maddie and Charlie, this is different. This crosses a line from business ruthlessness into something much darker. Adam sees it. That's why he's conflicted. Adam has done terrible things in his life. He's hurt people, destroyed relationships, burned bridges he can never rebuild. But even Adam, even someone with his history, recognizes that what Victor is planning is wrong. And Chelsea, looking at Adam, seeing this internal struggle, she's probably wondering if Adam is going to go along with it anyway. Because that's what Adam does, right? He sees the line. He knows he shouldn't cross it. And then he crosses it anyway because he's his father's son. But here's the thing. Adam has been trying to be better. He's been trying to break free from Victor's influence to build a life that isn't defined by schemes and manipulation and cruelty. And this moment, this conversation with Chelsea about using innocent people as pawns, this could be the moment where Adam finally draws a line in the sand and refuses to cross it. Or it could be the moment where he proves that he'll never really change, that he'll always choose Victor and power over doing what's right. And Chelsea is watching all of this unfold, knowing that Adam's decision here will define their future together. If he goes along with Victor's plan, if he helps threaten those kids, how can she stay with him? How can she build a life with someone who would do something like that? But if he stands up to Victor, if he refuses to participate, that could be the beginning of Adam finally becoming the man Chelsea hoped he could be. The emotional stakes here are enormous. This isn't just about business. This is about who Adam chooses to be and whether that choice is compatible with the life Chelsea wants to build. Now, let's talk about what's happening with Billy, because his storyline this week is going to hit different. Billy Abbott has always been someone who acts first and thinks later. He's impulsive, passionate, driven by his emotions rather than cold calculation. And that's gotten him into trouble more times than anyone can count. But this situation with Jill, this isn't something he can fix with a grand gesture or a risky gamble. His mother's health is failing, and all the charm and bravado in the world can't change that. He can't negotiate with mortality. He can't scheme his way out of losing her. Sally telling him about Jill's decline. You can imagine how that conversation goes. She probably tries to soften the blow, tries to prepare him gently, but there's no good way to tell someone that their mother is dying. There's no version of that conversation that doesn't shatter someone's world. And Billy's reaction, the way his priorities shift instantaneously. That's real. That's human. Because in that moment, he realizes that all the things he's been fighting for, all the corporate battles and wounded pride and ambitious plans, none of it matters. If he loses his mother, none of it will mean anything if he doesn't have the chance to tell her he loves her, to be there for her, to make peace with whatever regrets and unfinished business exists between them. This is going to force Billy to reevaluate everything. His career at Abbott Communications, the Chancellor deal, his relationships, his choices. All of it is going to be viewed through the lens of this devastating news. And the question becomes, what kind of man does Billy want to be in what could be his mother's final days? Does he want to be the son who is too busy with work to be there? Or does he want to show up, put everything else aside, and be present for the woman who raised him? Spoilers say Billy is going to have to make some hard choices this week. And those choices are going to define not just his relationship with Jill, but how he sees himself moving forward. But let's get back to the Dominic situation because this is the storyline that's going to dominate the week and probably stretch well beyond these 5 episodes. A missing child is the kind of crisis that consumes everything else. It makes every other problem seem trivial by comparison. Abby's panic is understandable. She's a mother who's lost her child. Every second that passes is another second where Dominic could be in danger, could be scared, could be calling out for his parents and getting no response. The fear, the helplessness, the guilt of not being able to protect him. It's overwhelming. And Devin trying to stay calm, trying to be the rock that Abby needs, he's falling apart inside, too. He's just better at hiding it. He's trying to think logically, trying to figure out what they might have missed, what clue could lead them to Dominic. But the reality is they're searching blind. They have no idea who took him or why. The fact that it's Mariah adds layers to this that we're only beginning to understand. Because Mariah isn't a stranger. She's not some random criminal who saw an opportunity. She's someone with a deep connection to Dominic. Someone who carried him for 9 months. Someone who felt him grow inside her and probably thought of him as her baby. Even though legally, biologically, she knew he wasn't. The emotional complexity of Mariah's actions is going to be the heart of this storyline. What drove her to this point? Was it a mental breakdown? Was it something Abby or Devin said? Or did that trigger this response? Was it seeing Dominic and feeling that maternal bond she thought she'd moved past? Or has this been building for months, a resentment and longing that finally overwhelmed her better judgment? Whatever the answer is, it's going to be complicated. It's going to force viewers to grapple with difficult questions about surrogacy, maternal instinct, mental health, and the consequences of choices made with good intentions that go horribly wrong. And when the truth comes out, when Abby and Devin discover that Mariah is the one who took their son, the betrayal is going to cut deeper than any stranger's crime could because this was someone they trusted, someone they believed would never hurt them. And that trust has been shattered in the most devastating way imaginable. The search for Dominic is going to intensify. Law enforcement is going to get involved. Victor Newman is probably going to use every resource at his disposal to find his grandson. And eventually, inevitably, the trail is going to lead to Mariah. But what happens then? Does Mariah come to her senses and return Dominic safely? Does she dig in deeper, convinced she's doing the right thing? Does she run, taking Dominic somewhere far from Genoa City, where she thinks they can start a new life together? The possibilities are terrifying and the emotional fallout is going to be massive. Now, let's think about how all 3 of these story lines intersect thematically. You've got Victor threatening to use children as leverage. You've got Billy potentially losing his mother and facing the reality that time with loved ones is finite. And you've got Abby and Devin's child being taken from them by someone they trusted. The common thread here is family. What we're willing to do to protect it, what we're willing to sacrifice for it, and what happens when the bonds of family and trust are broken. Victor sees family as both his greatest strength and a tool to be weaponized. He'll protect his own children and grandchildren with everything he has, but he's willing to threaten someone else's family to achieve his goals. The hypocrisy is staggering, but it's also very Victor. Rules apply to other people. Morality applies to other people. His family is sacred, but yours is fair game if you cross him. Billy has been taking his family for granted, assuming Jill would always be there, that there would always be time to make things right. And now he's facing the possibility that time has run out, that his mother's health crisis is the wake-up call he needed, but arrived too late to matter. And Mariah has broken a family apart. Whether she sees it that way or not, she's caused unspeakable pain to people who trusted her, who welcomed her into their lives, who tried to honor her role in Dominic's story, while also establishing appropriate boundaries. These aren't just separate stories happening in parallel. They're all exploring the same fundamental questions about what family means, how far we'll go to protect it, and what happens when those protective instincts become destructive. Let's also think about the timeline here because these events are all happening in the same week. While Victor is plotting against Kane's family, Dominic is missing. While Billy is processing the news about Jill, Abby and Devin are living a nightmare. These characters are all moving through the same days, but their experiences are completely different. And that's part of what makes soap opera storytelling so compelling. You're watching multiple families, multiple crises, multiple emotional journeys, all happening simultaneously. And sometimes those stories collide in unexpected ways. Could Victor's scheme against Kane's family be disrupted by Dominic's disappearance? After all, Dominic is Victor's grandson. If Victor learns his grandson is missing, is he going to continue plotting corporate revenge? Or is he going to drop everything to help find the boy? And Billy dealing with his mother's health crisis. Is he even aware that Dominic is missing? How long before news spreads through Genoa City that Abby Newman's son has been abducted? And when it does spread, how does that affect everyone else's priorities? These are the kinds of questions that are going to play out over the course of the week as characters' paths cross and separate, as information spreads or doesn't spread, as the fabric of Genoa City life gets torn apart by these intersecting crises. Spoilers say that by Friday, January 30th, nothing is going to be resolved. Dominic is still going to be missing. Jill's condition is still going to be uncertain. Victor's plan is still going to be in motion. And viewers are going to be left hanging, desperate to know what happens next. That's intentional. That's how soap operas work. They build tension, create impossible situations, and then leave you desperate for answers. They make you care so deeply about these characters that you can't stand not knowing if they're going to be okay. And this week, that tension is going to be almost unbearable. Think about Abby sitting in that mansion as darkness falls, knowing her son is out there somewhere. She's probably imagining the worst. She's probably playing back every moment of the day, looking for some clue she missed, some sign that this was going to happen. She's probably blaming herself, even though rationally she knows she couldn't have prevented this. Devin is beside her, trying to be strong, trying to hold them both together. But he's terrified, too. He's a father who can't protect his son, who doesn't even know where to start looking. The helplessness is crushing. And Mariah, wherever she is with Dominic, what's going through her mind? Does she feel justified? Does she believe she's rescuing him from something? Or is she starting to realize the enormity of what she's done, the lives she's destroyed, the trust she shattered? The psychological complexity of this situation is going to drive the story forward because this isn't a simple case of good versus evil. This is complicated people making complicated choices for complicated reasons, and everyone is going to suffer the consequences. Meanwhile, Adam is probably still wrestling with his decision about Victor's plan. Does he go along with it? Does he try to talk Victor out of it? Does he warn Kane, potentially betraying his father to prevent innocent people from being hurt? Chelsea is watching him, waiting to see what he'll do, knowing that his choice will determine whether their relationship has a future. The pressure on Adam is enormous, and he's not exactly known for making good decisions under pressure. And Billy, he's probably already making arrangements to go see Jill, to put work aside and focus on family while he still has the chance. Sally's news has reordered his entire world. And everything he thought mattered an hour ago now seems ridiculous and trivial. But here's the thing about Billy. He acts on emotion, which means his response to this crisis is going to be intense and probably not entirely rational. He's going to want to fix things, to make grand gestures, to somehow turn back time and be the son Jill deserved before it's too late. The guilt he's carrying, the realization that he's been so focused on his own drama that he neglected his mother, that's going to eat at him. And Billy doesn't handle guilt well. He tends to spiral to make impulsive choices that create new problems even as he's trying to solve old ones. So, we might see Billy doing something dramatic in response to this news. Maybe he quits Abbott Communications on the spot. Maybe he abandons the Chancellor deal entirely. Maybe he makes promises to Jill that he can't keep. Promises about changing, about being better, about putting family first from now on. The emotional authenticity of Billy's response is going to be crucial because viewers need to believe that he's genuinely shattered by this news, that it's not just another plot point, but a real devastating moment in his life. And Sally, who delivered this news, she's probably feeling her own guilt. She went behind Billy's back with good intentions, trying to help, and instead she's the one who had to tell him that his mother is dying. That's a burden she's going to carry, a moment that's going to define their relationship going forward. Does Billy blame her for keeping this from him? Does he appreciate that she tried to reach out to his family? Or is he so overwhelmed by the news itself that he can't even process Sally's role in all of this? Their dynamic is going to shift this week, that's certain. Whether it gets stronger or fractures under the pressure remains to be seen. Now, let's think about the broader implications of Victor's plan. He wants to use Kane's family as leverage, but in doing so, he's essentially announcing to the world that he believes threatening innocent people is acceptable if it serves his purposes. What does that say about Victor Newman in 2025? Is this just who he's always been? Or has he gotten worse with age, more ruthless, more willing to cross lines that should never be crossed? And more importantly, what does it say about the people who enable him? Adam knows this plan is wrong, but is he going to stop it? Is anyone going to stand up to Victor and say, "No, this is too far. We're not doing this"? Because if nobody stops him, if Victor actually goes through with threatening Lily and those kids, the message that sends is terrifying. It says that in Genoa City, power trumps morality. It says that if you're rich and influential enough, you can do whatever you want to whoever you want and there will be no consequences. That's a dark path for this show to go down. But it's also compelling storytelling because it forces viewers to confront uncomfortable truths about power and privilege and the ways people justify terrible actions when they believe they're protecting what's theirs. Kane Ashb is going to find out about these threats eventually. And when he does, how does he respond? Does he back down, proving that Victor's strategy works? Or does he escalate, turning this into an all-out war that could destroy both families? The consequences of Victor's actions are going to reverberate for months. Relationships are going to be damaged, alliances are going to shift, and Victor himself might finally face real accountability for the things he's done. Or maybe not. Maybe Victor gets away with it again like he always does. Maybe his wealth and power shield him from consequences, and everyone else is left to pick up the pieces. That's the frustrating reality of Victor Newman's storylines. He rarely faces lasting consequences for his actions. He manipulates and destroys, and then somehow emerges unscathed while everyone around him suffers. But this time feels different. This time, even his own son is questioning whether they've gone too far. This time, the plan is so obviously cruel that it's hard to see how Victor justifies it, even to himself. Spoilers say that Victor is determined to protect what's his, no matter the cost. And that determination, that absolute refusal to show mercy or restraint, that's what's going to drive this storyline forward. Let's also consider the women in these storylines because they're the ones who are often left to deal with the emotional fallout of the men's decisions. Chelsea is watching Adam struggle with his conscience, knowing that whatever he chooses, she's going to have to live with the consequences. She's trying to guide him toward the right choice without outright demanding it because she knows Adam has to make this decision himself. But the fear in her eyes, the worry that the man she loves might choose wrong, that's palpable. Sally delivered devastating news to Billy, and now she's watching him fall apart. She probably wants to comfort him, to be there for him, but she also knows she's part of the reason he's in pain. She went behind his back. And even though her intentions were good, the outcome has been awful. Abby is living every mother's worst nightmare, and she doesn't even know who to blame yet. When she finds out it's Mariah, that betrayal is going to compound the trauma of Dominic's disappearance. She's not just dealing with a missing child. She's going to be dealing with the destruction of trust in someone she considered a friend. And Mariah herself, assuming she's not completely detached from reality, is probably experiencing her own emotional turmoil. She's done something unforgivable, something that's going to have legal and personal consequences that will follow her for the rest of her life. Whatever drove her to take Dominic, she's going to have to reckon with that choice and its impact on everyone involved. These women are the emotional core of these storylines. Their pain, their strength, their resilience. That's what's going to make these stories resonate with viewers. Think about Abby's journey this week. She starts the week probably feeling secure, happy, grateful for her family and her life. And then in an instant, everything changes. Her son disappears, and she's thrown into a nightmare she never imagined. The transformation from security to terror, from trust to suspicion, from hope to despair. That's going to be heartbreaking to watch. And Abby is going to have to find strength she didn't know she had, because giving up isn't an option when your child is missing. Devin is going to have to be her anchor, and she's going to have to be his because they're the only two people who truly understand what they're going through. Nobody else can comprehend the depth of their fear and pain. And when they finally discover that Mariah is responsible, when that truth comes out, they're going to have to navigate their anger and desire for justice, while also trying to understand how someone they cared about could do something so horrific. The complexity of that emotional journey is going to be intense because on one level, Mariah is a criminal who needs to face consequences. But on another level, she's someone they knew, someone with her own pain and struggles, and understanding her motivations doesn't excuse what she did, but might help them process their own trauma. It's messy and complicated, and there are no easy answers, which is exactly what makes it compelling television. Now, as we head toward the end of the week, as these storylines build toward their respective cliffhangers, the tension is going to be almost unbearable. Victor's plan is going to move forward with Adam still conflicted about his role. Billy is going to be racing to be with Jill, terrified that he'll arrive too late. And Abby and Devin are going to be no closer to finding Dominic, their desperation growing with each passing hour. By Friday, viewers are going to be desperate for resolution. They're going to need to know if Dominic is safe. They're going to need to know if Jill survives. They're going to need to know if Adam makes the right choice about Victor's scheme. But spoilers say we're not getting those answers yet. This is just the beginning of these storylines, the setup for drama that's going to unfold over weeks or even months. And that's both frustrating and exciting because while we want resolution, we also want to see how these stories develop, how characters change in response to crisis, how relationships evolve under pressure. The week of January 26th through 30th is going to be a turning point for multiple characters and families in Genoa City. The choices made this week are going to have consequences that ripple forward, affecting